to lofty ideals or empty rituals. He believed true spirituality is grounded in the mud of life. It's not about escaping reality. It's about transforming it. When someone tells you to just think positive, what they might really be saying is, don't make me uncomfortable with your pain. But pain is sacred. It's the doorway, the descent into the underworld that every mythic hero must face. There's a reason myths matter. Because they speak in the language of the unconscious. They bypass the intellect and hit something older, deeper. Jung saw archetypes not as cliches, but as psychic organs, universal patterns that help us make sense of our experiences. The mother, the trickster, the wise old man, the hero. We meet them not only in stories but in our own dreams and relationships. And recognizing them helps us understand that we're not alone in our struggles. We're part of something bigger, something ancient. Think of how often we feel isolated in our suffering, like no one could possibly understand what we're going through. But if we look closely, we'll see that our stories have been lived before, sung before, wept before. And that knowledge, it's comforting. It means we don't have to invent meaning, we just have to uncover it. What Jung offered us is the radical idea that the unconscious isn't just a dumping ground for repressed stuff. It's a treasure chest. And yes, it's guarded by monsters, the ones we locked away. But those monsters are part of us. Facing them doesn't make us weaker. It makes us human. When we dream of death, we're often dreaming of transformation. When we dream of falling, we're being invited to surrender. The unconscious isn't against us. It's trying to guide us. And once you realize that, you start listening differently. You stop dismissing your dreams as nonsense. You start seeing synchronicities not as coincidences, but as whispers from the deep. Life begins to feel less random, more symbolic, richer. There's no map for this journey, but there are signs, symbols, stories. It's easy to scroll past moments of discomfort, to distract ourselves into numbness. But Jung's work challenges that, calls us to courage. Not the loud, performative kind, but the quiet courage of inner honesty. To admit that we don't have it all figured out. To explore the parts of ourselves we've ignored. And to do so not for perfection, but for wholeness. And if this kind of reflection speaks to you, if it stirs something inside you, consider subscribing. We go deep here, not to escape life, but to face it more fully. Drop a comment if you've ever felt like your dreams were trying to tell you something. Let's explore that together. One of Jung's most powerful contributions was the concept of the wounded healer, the idea that our wounds don't disqualify us from helping others. They prepare us. The therapist who has known despair can sit with someone else's pain in a way no textbook ever could. The parent who once felt unseen can raise a child with deep empathy. The artist who's touched darkness can create light. Our suffering is not just something to survive. It can become a gift when integrated. But integration isn't neat. It's not a checklist. It's an ongoing dialogue with the self. Sometimes it looks like tears. Other times it looks like laughter in the middle of grief. The psyche is complex, not because it wants to confuse us, but because it mirrors the complexity of life. Nothing in nature is simple. Trees twist, rivers bend, mountains crumble and grow again. Why should we expect our growth to be any different? We talk about self-love like it's a spa day or a quote on social media. But Jung's version of self-love is grittier. It's about radical acceptance, looking at the ugliest parts of yourself and saying, you belong. Not excusing your harm, but owning your wholeness. That's real strength. The person who has befriended their shadow can walk through the world with more compassion, because they've learned to extend it to themselves first. So maybe the work isn't to be good or successful or liked. Maybe the work is to be real, fully, terrifyingly real, to risk authenticity in a world that rewards imitation. That's not easy, but it's worth it, because the more real you become, the more you start to see through the illusions that once held power over you. And once you see, you can't unsee. The mask slips, the old stories lose their grip, and something deeper, truer begins to emerge. Not a new self, but a remembered one. The self that was there before the world told you who to be. And that self is still there, waiting, watching, ready, shown. By embracing your shadow, you open the door to a fuller, more balanced self. These reflections naturally lead to questions about purpose and destiny. Jung didn't believe in a fixed fate, but saw life as a dynamic unfolding of potential, shaped by conscious choices and unconscious influences. He introduced the idea of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem to guide us along our path. Think about moments when you encountered a stranger who said exactly what you needed to hear, or when a random event shifted your perspective profoundly. These experiences hint at a deeper order underlying the chaos of everyday life. Jung invited us to remain open to these signs, trusting that life's journey holds purpose beyond what we can immediately grasp. In this light, the modern rush to constant activity and external validation may actually distract us from the inner work that Jung deemed essential. It's tempting to fill our days with noise and distraction, avoiding the sometimes uncomfortable process of self-reflection. But what if the true adventure lies inward? What if the moments of stillness and contemplation are the most fertile ground for growth? By cultivating awareness of our inner world, we develop resilience and clarity that help us face life's inevitable uncertainties with confidence. This perspective also encourages compassion, both for ourselves and others. Recognizing that everyone carries hidden struggles and unconscious conflicts fosters empathy. When we remember that beneath the surface, each person is navigating their own labyrinth of light and shadow, it becomes easier to approach life with kindness rather than judgment. Have you ever found that understanding someone's background or inner battles changes your reaction toward them? Jung's insights promote this deep human connection as a path toward healing and unity. And speaking of connection, there's something profoundly empowering about realizing that the self is not a static entity but a living process. We're always becoming, constantly evolving through our experiences and reflections. This fluidity means that no matter how stuck or lost we might feel at times, transformation is always possible. The psychological tools Jung developed, dream analysis, active imagination, shadow integration, are invitations to participate actively in this ongoing process. Life, then, is less about arriving at a final destination and more about engaging fully in the journey, with all its twists and turns. This ongoing journey calls for courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it honestly. Jung's work shows us that confronting our inner darkness is a heroic act in itself, a step toward reclaiming our wholeness. The path of individuation is demanding but also deeply rewarding, leading to greater authenticity and freedom. How might your life change if you embraced this challenge, viewing obstacles not as dead ends but as invitations to grow? In the spirit of continuing this exploration, don't forget to subscribe and join the community where we dive deeper into these transformative ideas. Sharing your thoughts and experiences in the comments not only enriches your own journey but also creates space for others to reflect and grow. How do you relate to these Jungian concepts? Have you noticed archetypes or shadows playing out in your life? Your voice matters here. Returning to the idea of balance, Jung's philosophy reminds us that life isn't about eliminating chaos or pain but about harmonizing opposites. Light cannot exist without shadow, joy without sorrow, consciousness without unconsciousness. This interplay is what gives life its richness and depth. When we accept this dance rather than resist it, we tap into a profound wisdom that guides us through change and uncertainty with grace. Ultimately, the thoughts of Carl Jung invite us to see life not just as a series of events but as a meaningful narrative unfolding within and around us. This perspective shifts how we relate to ourselves and the world, encouraging us to embrace complexity, honor our inner experiences, and engage actively with the mystery of existence. And as you reflect on this, remember that this journey isn't solitary. By connecting with others who share this quest, we create a supportive network that fosters insight and transformation. So, as you move through your day, what might it look like to pause and listen deeply to the whispers of your unconscious? How might you begin to welcome the parts of yourself you've been avoiding? These are not easy questions, but they are vital ones. They hold the key to a richer, more vibrant life, one where the surface and depths coexist in harmony. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more content that explores these fascinating dimensions of psychology and personal growth. And please, share your experiences or questions below. This dialogue enriches everyone's understanding and helps build a community of thoughtful reflection. In embracing these ideas, we are reminded that life is an ongoing dance between knowing and mystery, order and chaos, self and other. The insights of Jung offer a map for navigating this dance with courage, curiosity, and compassion. What stories will you tell about your own journey? How will you engage with the hidden currents shaping your life? These questions linger because they invite us into a deeper conversation with ourselves, one that never truly ends but continually unfolds, inviting us to become ever more whole. Life often feels like a puzzle with missing pieces, moments that don't quite fit together, emotions that seem contradictory, and a sense of searching for meaning that never really ends. Carl Jung, a pioneer in psychology, offered thoughts that dive deep into this complexity of existence, encouraging us to look beyond the surface and explore the layers within ourselves. He believed that life is not just about the conscious decisions we make, but about acknowledging the unconscious forces that shape who we are. Have you ever stopped to think about how much of your own life is driven by things you don't fully understand? Jung's idea of the unconscious isn't some dark, mysterious place, but a vital part of our psyche that holds the key to self-understanding and growth. It's like an iceberg. Only a small part is visible, and the rest remains beneath the surface, influencing our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. This hidden realm is where our instincts, memories, and dreams reside, often guiding us without us even realizing it. Think about those moments when a sudden thought or feeling takes you by surprise. Jung would say that's your unconscious communicating with you, trying to bring something important into awareness. One of the most compelling aspects of Jung's philosophy is the concept of individuation, which is essentially the journey of becoming the truest version of yourself. It's about integrating all parts of your personality, including the shadow, those parts we often reject or deny. This shadow can be uncomfortable to face because it includes traits or impulses we don't like to admit, but confronting it is crucial for personal growth. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with things you refuse to look at or accept. You might get tired or stuck, but when you decide to open it and unpack those contents, you free yourself to move forward more authentically. That process, Jung believed, leads to a more fulfilled and meaningful life. Life's meaning, according to Jung, is not something handed to us on a silver platter. Instead, it's something we actively create by connecting with deeper parts of ourselves and the world around us. In today's fast-paced and often superficial culture, it's easy to lose sight of this. We chase goals, accumulate possessions, or seek approval, hoping these external things will fill the inner void. But true fulfillment comes from within, when we listen to our inner voice, embrace our contradictions, and accept the unknown parts of our psyche. How often do you pause to listen to what your deeper self might be trying to tell you? Jung also emphasized the power of symbols and myths in helping us understand life. Symbols speak to the unconscious mind in a way that words often cannot, carrying multiple layers of meaning and connecting us to something universal. For example, dreams filled with archetypal images like the hero, the mother, or the trickster reflect not only personal struggles, but also shared human experiences. These myths and symbols act like a map for navigating the complexity of life, reminding us that we are part of a larger story. When you encounter a powerful image or story, what feelings or thoughts arise within you? That's the unconscious speaking through symbolic language. A fascinating element of Jung's thoughts on life is how he viewed suffering, not as something to avoid at all costs, but as a necessary part of growth. Pain and hardship shake us out of complacency and force us to confront parts of ourselves that remain hidden or undeveloped. There's a transformative potential in suffering when we allow it to teach us rather than break us. Think of a tree in a storm. The wind may bend its branches, but it also strengthens the roots underground. In a similar way, our struggles can deepen our understanding and resilience. What challenges have shaped you in ways you never expected? Incorporating Jung's insights into everyday life can feel daunting, but it begins with small steps, reflecting on dreams, paying attention to recurring patterns in relationships, or simply being honest with yourself about your fears and desires. These moments of self-awareness are like windows opening to parts of your psyche that have been waiting for recognition. When you start to acknowledge these parts, you might notice how your perspective shifts and new possibilities emerge. Have you ever noticed how a simple change in awareness can alter the way you see a situation or yourself? Jung's approach encourages us to see life as a dynamic interplay between opposites, light and dark, conscious and unconscious, order and chaos. This balance is not static but a continual dance where we learn to embrace complexity rather than seek simple answers. It's like a river flowing, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, but always your journey towards self-discovery. And while you're at it, drop a comment sharing your thoughts on Jung's approach to life. Have you experienced moments where confronting your shadow or paying attention to dreams changed your perspective? Thinking about it, Jung's exploration of life isn't just philosophical, it's profoundly practical. His work guides us to cultivate awareness in daily living, encouraging us to slow down and notice what's beneath the surface. It's like peeling layers off an onion, revealing new dimensions of yourself bit by bit. The process isn't always comfortable, but it's incredibly rewarding. And in a world that often feels fast and superficial, this invitation to depth can be a lifeline. One of the ways to start applying these ideas is through self-reflection and journaling. Writing down your thoughts, dreams, or feelings can help illuminate unconscious patterns and bring clarity. When you notice recurring themes or symbols, take a moment to explore what they might mean. Over time, this practice builds a dialogue between your conscious mind and deeper self, fostering growth. Have you tried this before? Sometimes, the act of putting things into words unlocks new understanding you didn't realize was there. Another practical insight from Jung is the importance of integrating creativity into life. He believed creative expression, whether through art, music, writing, or other forms, is a vital outlet for the unconscious to communicate. It's not about producing masterpieces but about allowing the inner world to flow outward. This can be incredibly healing and enlightening. When was the last time you did something creative just for yourself without pressure or judgment? Jung's ideas also challenge the modern tendency to compartmentalize life, work, relationships, spirituality as separate domains. He saw the psyche as a whole, interconnected system where everything influences everything else. This holistic view encourages us to seek balance and harmony across all areas of life. It suggests that neglecting one part can create tension elsewhere, much like an ecosystem out of balance. How do you feel about the interconnectedness of your own life experiences? The concept of the collective unconscious, shared across humanity, offers another profound layer. It implies that our individual struggles and stories are part of a greater human tapestry, linking us through universal themes. This perspective can be both humbling and empowering. It reminds us that, while we each face unique challenges, we're not isolated. There's a shared human journey unfolding, and in understanding this, we find connection and compassion. At times, embracing Jung's framework means being willing to sit with discomfort. The shadow work, confronting fears, or acknowledging painful memories isn't easy. But the alternative, remaining fragmented or unaware, often leads to repeated patterns and dissatisfaction. This is why so many find Jung's approach to be a kind of invitation to courage. What might your life look like if you faced your shadow with curiosity rather than judgment? Before moving on, if this exploration of inner life resonates with you, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. It's here you'll find more ideas to guide your path and a community interested in thoughtful conversation. Also, share your experiences or questions about shadow work or dream analysis below. Let's build a space where we learn from each other. The more you immerse yourself in these ideas, the more you begin to notice how the unconscious expresses itself in everyday moments, through emotions, slips of the tongue, or sudden inspirations. This awareness can transform routine into something rich with meaning. Jung believed that when we live authentically, aligned with our deeper selves, life itself becomes a form of art. In relationships, understanding Jung's archetypes can help us see patterns that might otherwise confuse or frustrate us. For example, the animus and anima concepts describe the masculine and feminine aspects within everyone, regardless of gender. Becoming aware of these can deepen empathy and balance in how we connect with others and ourselves. Have you ever recognized a pattern where you're projecting your inner animus or anima onto a partner or friend? Awareness here can open new doors to healing. Jung's emphasis on symbols also reminds us to pay attention to the small things, colors, numbers, animals, that keep appearing in our lives. These symbols are often personalized but rooted in universal meanings. Noticing them can provide clues about our current psychological state or direction. It's like life is sending subtle signals that invite us to reflect and grow. At its core, Jung's thinking about life is an invitation to a lifelong dance between knowing and mystery. There will always be parts of ourselves and existence we cannot fully grasp, and that's okay. Embracing this mystery rather than resisting it can bring a kind of peace that's rare in our busy, certainty-driven culture. How might your relationship with the unknown shift if you welcomed it as a teacher instead of a threat? Reflecting on all this, one of the most striking things is how relevant Jung's ideas remain today. In a world filled with noise, distraction, and quick fixes, his call to deep self-exploration offers something timeless. It challenges us to move beyond superficial living into a richer, more authentic experience. That kind of journey isn't easy, but it's where true fulfillment often lies. As you think about your own path, consider how embracing your unconscious might change your perspective on challenges, relationships, or even your purpose. What hidden parts of yourself might be waiting to be discovered? What symbols or dreams are trying to speak to you? This ongoing dialogue between your conscious and unconscious mind can be a source of endless insight. By the way, if you're finding this kind of exploration meaningful, subscribing here means you won't miss future content diving into these and related ideas. Plus, sharing your insights or questions in the comments helps everyone grow. There's real power in collective reflection, and your voice matters. Ultimately, Jung reminds us that life's meaning isn't handed to us on a silver platter. It's something we co-create with the depths inside us. This co-creation requires openness, courage, and a willingness to face uncertainty. But in that process, we find not just answers, but a way of living that feels whole and alive. Isn't that something worth pursuing? There's something incredibly fascinating about how Carl Jung approached the complexities of life, not as a linear path, but as a labyrinth full of hidden corners and shadows waiting to be discovered. He saw life as a deep, symbolic journey where every experience, every feeling, and every dream held meaning far beyond the surface. This perspective challenges us to look inward, to explore the unconscious forces shaping who we are, rather than just skimming along the obvious. Jung's idea of the psyche as composed of conscious awareness and a vast unconscious realm suggests that what we see on the surface is just a fraction of what's truly driving us. Imagine for a moment that your life is like an iceberg. What you consciously experience is the tip, but underneath lies a huge, submerged world of thoughts, emotions, and instincts influencing your decisions and behaviors. This can be both comforting and unsettling. Comforting because it means you're not alone in the struggle for self-understanding. Unsettling because it reveals how much is unknown, even to ourselves. When Jung talks about individuation, the process of becoming your true self, it's not about fitting into society's mold or chasing external achievements. Instead, it's a lifelong exploration of integrating all parts of your personality, including the shadow, the aspects we usually hide or deny. This shadow isn't just dark or negative. It's a reservoir of creativity and vitality that can be transformative if we face it honestly. Have you ever noticed how moments of greatest personal growth often come from confronting uncomfortable truths or aspects of yourself you've ignored? That's exactly what Jung points to, the richness that emerges when we stop running from our inner contradictions. He also believed that myths, symbols, and archetypes are universal patterns that appear across cultures and histories, shaping our collective unconscious. When you hear stories of heroes, tricksters, or wise old mentors, you're actually tapping into these archetypes playing out in your own life. This might explain why certain themes in books, movies, or dreams resonate so deeply, even if the details differ. We're wired to respond to these symbolic narratives because they reflect fundamental aspects of the human experience. It's like a secret language within us, guiding us toward meaning and self-awareness. At the heart of Jung's philosophy is the tension between opposites, light and dark, conscious and unconscious, order and chaos. Life isn't about choosing one side but finding balance between them. Think about how often your best ideas or breakthroughs happen when you allow contradictions to coexist instead of forcing a neat resolution. This interplay is what makes life dynamic and unpredictable, but also full of potential. In a way, Jung invites us to stop fearing uncertainty and embrace it as a creative force. This can be tricky in a culture that prizes certainty and control, but it opens up the possibility of authentic living. When you stop trying to suppress or ignore parts of yourself, you make space for growth and deeper connection with yourself and others. It's like tuning into a radio frequency that was always there but drowned out by static. Throughout his work, Jung emphasized the importance of dreams as a bridge between conscious life and the unconscious world. Dreams aren't random or meaningless. They're messages filled with symbolism, revealing hidden desires, fears, and guidance. Have you ever woken up from a dream feeling puzzled but somehow wiser? That's the unconscious nudging you, offering insights you might not get through waking thought alone. Learning to pay attention to these messages can be a powerful tool in navigating life's complexities. Jung also understood that the journey toward wholeness involves embracing the paradoxes within us. For instance, we often think of strength as being tough and resilient, but true strength might also mean vulnerability and openness. By recognizing and integrating these seemingly opposing qualities, we become more adaptable and whole. This is something anyone can relate to. How many times have you felt strong in one moment and fragile in the next? Accepting this fluidity instead of fighting it can bring a surprising sense of peace. It's interesting how Jung's insights connect so naturally to everyday experiences. Take relationships, for example. When we project our inner conflicts or desires onto others, misunderstandings arise. Jung's idea of projection explains why we sometimes see qualities in people that are really reflections of ourselves. Becoming aware of this can transform how we relate, helping us to communicate more honestly and empathetically. Imagine the impact if we all recognized that the struggles we face with others often mirror unresolved struggles within ourselves. And then there's the notion of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that feel too significant to be random. Jung suggested these moments aren't just chance but connections between inner states and outer events, as if the universe is speaking to us in subtle ways. Ever had a day when everything seemed to align perfectly, or a chance meeting that changed your perspective? These moments invite us to be more present and open to life's mysteries, rather than dismissing them as mere luck. Reflecting on Jung's thoughts naturally leads to questioning how much of our life is shaped by unconscious patterns versus conscious choices. How often do we repeat behaviors or get stuck in cycles without fully understanding why? This awareness can be the first step to breaking free and creating new pathways. It's a reminder that personal growth isn't about perfection, but about becoming more aware and intentional, no matter how small the progress. It's also worth noting how Jung's ideas invite us to take personal responsibility, not as a burden but as a path to empowerment. By recognizing and working with our inner world, we gain greater control over how we respond to external circumstances. Instead of being passive victims of fate or environment, we become active participants in shaping our destiny. This shift in perspective can be liberating, fueling motivation and hope even in difficult times. At this point, if you're finding value in these reflections on life and the mind, consider subscribing to this channel. Here, we dive deep into ideas that inspire growth and understanding, exactly the kind of insights Jung's work encourages. By joining the community, you'll get more content that challenges and supports you.